Germany is gearing up to launch an unprecedented mass vaccination program on Sunday. Shipments of the BioNTech-Pfizer vaccine have started to arrive in Germany and countries across the European Union. But despite expressing optimism about the start of the inoculation campaign, Germany's health minister warned the coronavirus has not yet been beaten.
This is the biggest vaccination campaign that modern Germany has known. Army and medical personnel have been enlisted to ensure all goes well. From Sunday, the first doses of the BioNTech-Pfizer vaccine will be given in care and nursing homes. They'll also be distributed to the special centres set up all over the country for mass but voluntary vaccination. Despite its critics, German Health Minister Jens Spahn said the immunization campaign meant there was every reason for optimism. The vaccination centres are ready to go. The teams are ready. Everyone wants the success of the biggest vaccination campaign of the history of federal Germany. This is federalism at its best. And naturally, some will also say that tomorrow is too little, too late, too European. But I would like that tomorrow is seen for what it is, an extraordinary day for Germany, an important day for the battle against the pandemic of a century. In a survey of the German population, a YouGov polls reveals that 32% of respondents want to receive the vaccine as soon as possible. Another 33% want to wait until they see how the vaccine affects other people, with 19% of those asked unwilling to take the jab and 16% undecided.
Let's just finish the corona thing. It's a problem. We need it. It's important at the moment.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. But it causes an allergic reaction, and I have allergies, and I have asthma. I don't know.
Yes, of course we have to. I'm afraid of corona.
When vaccine, everybody try before me. I don't want to be the first to try.
The German Health Ministry has promised over 1 million doses of the vaccine will be delivered before the end of the year. The vaccine raises hope for many, but the health crisis is far from over. Germany neared 1,000 daily deaths just before Christmas, and many worry that festive family reunions could result in a catastrophic third wave in early January.
And for more on this, let's talk with our chief political editor, Michaela Küfner. Michaela, the vaccine was developed in Germany. Why is it only now reaching Germans when some other countries have been injecting it for at least a week?
Yes, that's because the Europeans and Germany also opted for a thorough campaign to look at this, to have the European agency in charge give the green light for the whole of the EU to be able to use it. This slowed down the process. It would have been faster if individual states had put that on a fast track, but they didn't, because they also wanted to send a European, a united signal, and that we will see as this gets rolled out the very same day across the European Union. But sure, this also sparked a lot of debate and a lot of criticism, particularly in the public. Why does Britain, the US, get those vaccinations first when they are developed in Germany?
And you were talking, Michaela, about Europe sending a message. Will the distribution be fair between the richer countries like Germany and some of the less rich countries?
Well, that's certainly what the European Commission aims for. It's seen as a symbolic, more than a symbolic gesture, that the entire EU rolls it out at the very same time. Germany signed up for the first tranche of this vaccine when it was still unclear whether it would actually work. And now we will see over 1 million doses here in Germany and in parallel across the European Union rolled out at the same time. But this is a drop in the ocean if you look at the figures. Here in Germany, every state will receive up to 10,000 doses, and you need 2 of those. So really it's the most vulnerable who will be reached first, and among that group, a very small fraction.
And Michaela, if you're living in Germany now, there seems to be 2 things happening at the same time. We've got these vaccine rollouts, which are offering hope, but at the same time, we've had these hard lockdowns across the region. Is there any sign of when life might actually return to some kind of normal?
Well, I mean, you mentioned in your intro that tens of millions of vaccinations will be possible in the first half of 2021. And that's still very much the timeline that we are in. That's also the message that came across quite clearly from the German Health Minister Jens Spahn today, that all those regulations in place, keeping distance and masks, are still here to stay, but that the vaccination will allow life to return to something like normal before the next autumn. So, yes, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. We see neighbouring Austria go into its third lockdown. Germany is in its second, and we're still a far cry from seeing those figures really improve significantly, with this small caveat of the days over Christmas here, where we know that for sure not all cases are being reported. So all societies, not just in Europe, are still in this for the long haul.
Okay, so perhaps some light at the end of the tunnel, but still a very long tunnel. Michaela Kufner, thank you so much for that.
Across the Atlantic, giant immunisation programs have already begun in 3 Latin American countries. They are Mexico, Chile and Costa Rica. But all eyes are on Brazil. It has the world's second highest COVID-19 death toll and has not yet approved a vaccine.
It's been a week of celebrating firsts in Latin America. The first shipment arrivals of vaccines, the first jabs for healthcare workers and those at risk. It's the best gift in 2020 I could have gotten. I understand people are suspicious. It's something new. But you have to have faith and get vaccinated as soon as possible. Chile, Mexico and Costa Rica have all begun administering the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Argentina, meanwhile, has received its first doses of Russia's Sputnik V vaccine, with plans to begin vaccinations next week. But in Brazil, which has one of the highest rates of COVID-19 infections in the world, there have been mixed messages. The Butantan Institute has announced that their trial of the Chinese Sinovac vaccine had achieved WHO's required efficiency levels. The very next day, Brazil's president revealed his lack of confidence in it. The efficiency of that vaccine in Sao Paulo seems to be down. I will not disclose a percentage here because if I make a 0.001% error, I'll be beaten up by the media. I want a vaccine that is safe and effective, that meets its objectives. There are a lot of scared people at home. Let's wait for the vaccine. But while the nations that have begun rolling out the vaccine are optimistic, warnings to remain vigilant against the virus remain in place.
Well, here in Germany, vaccine shipments are underway for the start of the national immunisation program due to start tomorrow. Germany weathered the early months of the pandemic relatively well. Infection numbers and deaths were low compared to many other countries. But for those who've had COVID-19, recovery can be a real struggle.
Peggy is one of 40 COVID survivors here suffering from long-term effects of the illness. On Germany's Baltic Sea coast, their symptoms are being treated at a rehabilitation centre. After the virus, Peggy felt burnt out. She suffered from dizzy spells and chronic pain.
In some cases, I also had cognitive difficulties, like my head wasn't functioning properly. I couldn't hear, had poor vision, and couldn't follow conversations well.
Often COVID patients like Peggy say their concerns aren't being taken seriously by their doctors.
It's very difficult for some doctors to understand when they look at me. I look healthy. Physically, I'm reasonably strong, at least I appear to be. And then you get dismissed very quickly. They say, her mind is not okay. I'm not afraid, but I still wonder if I will ever be the same again.
As a COVID survivor, Peggy has officially recovered from the illness. But she says it feels like coronavirus has stolen her healthy body and left her with a sick one in its place. Peggy has been here for 2 weeks now. Her main goal is to get her mental health back on track.
Let's take a look now at some of the other developments in the coronavirus pandemic. South Korea has recorded its second highest daily number of infections since the disease broke out. Over 1,100 new cases were reported, a day after a previous record was set. Russia has passed the 3 million threshold of COVID-19 cases. The country has reported record numbers of infections and deaths nearly every week, but a new lockdown is not in sight. And parts of Sydney will re-enter lockdown on Sunday after a rise in infections. Australian authorities have called on people to stay home and not go shopping.